everyone. Feels like it's been ages since we managed to have a wee chat about books. So, in school, I'm hoping to organise a group of children who'd be willing to come and read some of the Yoto Carengies Prize shortlist nominations. And it's the illustration prize that we're looking at. You might find that the books for your age range, it could be tricky to read. You might find vocabulary, but if you and your family are up for it, you could read it together as a family. When I'm talking about what ages these books are for, I'm thinking more about the content and like whether it might appeal to you or not. So these ones are aimed at appealing to you. And as we start to look at the books for primary 6, 7, we're maybe looking at topics that would be more suitable for children of that age. All right, so let's get started. So the first one is called The Comet by Jo Todd Stanton, and it's an absolutely stunning cover of a book. Let me read you a little bit of the blurb. I don't really like to know too much about a story before going in, so I'll only read a little bit of the blurb rather than all of it. Nyla has moved to the city, but all she can think about is everything she misses from her home before. When a comet comes soaring through the city streets and starts to glow and grow, Nyla can't resist following it. But what starts as an escape could be just the thing to make her finally feel at home. So there we go, there's Nyla there. Oh, and look, there's a wee cat interested. So I've not read this book yet. In fact, I've not read most of these books. I'll tell you about the one that I have read when we get to it. And this is aimed for our primary 1s and our primary 2s mostly. So what we'll probably do with this book is we'll get the teachers to read this in class, and then children can tot up their scores, and I'll collate them all and we'll get an average. So that no matter how many children read a book, we'll get an average for the book so we know what the score is for each book within a certain category. Our next one, and again this is primary 1, primary 2, primary 3, probably for this one. And it's called The Visible Sounds by Yin Yanling and Yu Rong, and it's translated by Philip Sichi. I'm not sure. It's a Chinese dancer it's based on, so I assume it's been translated from Chinese. I'll double check that. It's based on a true story of a Chinese dancer, Li Hao Tai, and The Visible Sounds tells the uplifting tale of a young child dealing with the frustration and solitude of hearing loss. So hopefully that sounds like a really good book. Again, I've not read this one. Okay, so our next books, we're looking at primary 3, primary 4, primary 5 for the most part. I don't think there's anything in these that a primary 1 or a primary 2 wouldn't necessarily go on with, but certainly the reading skills within it would be a little bit higher. But like I say, as a family, if you get this book from the library or something like that, you and your family could read it together. I don't think either of these would be problematic that way. And same for, I think these would still be of interest to primary 6, 7. I'm just going to prioritise the 3s, 4s and 5s for borrowing these books, because I'm aware that the 6, 7s have a few options later, all right? So it's just so that we've got a wee bit of fair spread. However, if you're primary 6, 7, again, you see this in the library, or you happen to have this book, you buy this book, then that, like, you could still submit a score for us once I tell you more about that. So this one's non-fiction. And it's not completely or only like non-fiction, obviously, because we've got The Visible Sounds that's based on a true story too, so there'll be a fictionalised account that is based on somebody's life. And again, this is based on obviously the real event of the Titanic sinking, but the focus is on the individuals within this book. It says, deep in the dark North Atlantic night, the majestic ocean liner Titanic strikes ice and quickly begins to sink. Follow the brave crews of both ships. That's that one that's sinking and the one that came to try and save them. On the fateful night, it's all hands to deck as the little ship races on its brave journey to save 706 passengers from the world's most famous maritime disaster. And obviously, like, this is quite an emotional book, I'd imagine. Again, I've not read it, but it's an emotional story. But lots of us are familiar with this story. And it's by Flora Delage. Next one is Saving Saraya, Chang and the Sand Bear. And I noticed when we were getting this one that it said number 1, so it looks like there's going to be follow-up stories to this book. So if it's good, that means there's more on their way, which is good. It says, my name is Chang, and I am a wildlife conservationist. When Chang vows to return a young sun bear named Saraya to the wild, she faces her toughest challenge yet. Because despite being a bear, Saraya is Chang's best friend. And letting a friend go is never easy, even when it's the right thing to do. Again, P34 P3, P4, P5, and like it does sound like it's going to be a bit of an emotional read. And it says again that this is based in the early life of Trang Nguyen, a wildlife conservationist and environmental activist. Trang was named on the BBC's 100 Women of 2019 list. So it's kind of nice to get that link to it being non-fiction, and clearly it's going to have a good nature and environmental content within it, and the illustrations are stunning. But then the illustrations, no, these are stunning, that's why they've all made the shortlist clearly. Okay, so the next two books are the books that I'm saying primary 6, primary 7. Again, I've not read either of these two books, but this one, The Worlds We Leave Behind by A.F. Harold, illustrated by Levi Pinfold. There's a lot of reading in this one, so it's definitely for somebody who doesn't mind. It's not quite as hefty as other middle grade novels, but the writing is quite small. But there are plenty of illustrations. Again, it's on that illustrations list. But be aware of that if you're going to give us a wee go. Beautiful naked hardback too. So let me read you a little bit. What I will say is this says it's aimed at the upper primary school, and if you think you fancy Stranger Things, this would possibly be good for you, so I assume it's quite spooky. Hector, or Hex as he likes to be known, doesn't realise that his life is about to change forever. When he causes a terrible accident, Hex can't take responsibility and he runs. Burning with injustice, he finds his way to a clearing in the woods. I'm not going to go any further than that, okay, because like I say, I like to, but we can see there's more than one person in the woods, so I assume he's got some friends on his journey. Okay, so this one's called Altizakin Old Things. So that's a translation, I assume here. And it's by Ziggy Hanor and Benjamin Phillips. Benji and his grandma, Bubby Rossa, are gathering the ingredients for a Friday night dinner. As they wander the streets of Brooklyn and Manhattan, Bubby struggles to reconcile the world of her memories with the new realities that surround her. A powerful and affecting story of Jewish identity, of generational divides, of tolerance and acceptance, and of a restless city and its inhabitants. So clearly, there are some really sort of deep topics in this book, again, that would be more suitable for our primary 6s and 7s. There is less reading of words to do in this one because it's a graphic novel, so that might appeal to you. It is written with lots of capital letters too, so that's something to keep in mind for, like, if you were going to read it on your own, like, does that appeal to you, reading print like that? But I think it's really important for us to remember that reading isn't always reading loads and loads of words. Like, on this page, there's absolutely no writing. Yep, no writing at all, but there's a lot of reading to be done. You've got to read the picture, you can't just have a quick glance, you've got to look and see what's happening. So I think that's, and I think it's really worthwhile. It's one of my favourite things to read is graphic novels. I love looking at the art. So that's our illustration shortlist, and like I say, we'll let you know exactly how to volunteer so you can get on board and we can score these books and choose the Rochsolloch winners. As well as that, the writing shortlist is unfortunately mainly young adult books this year. So there's only one book that I feel is suitable for our P6 7s. None of the other writing books appeal. However, I did read this book. It's called The Light in Everything by Katja Balin. And maybe you've read other things by her. She does have a decent backlist. I read October last year, and that's a beautiful book too. And I personally loved this book. It's quite an easy read in the sense that it's told from two different characters' perspectives, and it moves quite quick. So here you'll see, like, this has got Tom's page, and it's just a few pages of Tom before we move on to Zafia, and then we get a couple of pages for Zafia as well. So we flip between Tom and Zafia. Tom and Zafia are brought together through unsuspecting circumstances, and they don't really want to really have to have anything to do with each other, unfortunately. Tom is quiet and terrified, even though his dad has been gone for 2 years now. Zafia is bold and furious, a storm in the shape of a girl. They're polar opposites. They can't stand each other, not for a single second. So I'm going to try and get a wee book club sorted so that we can get this one read. We do have 4 or 5 copies of this one. Again, we can even speak to the library and see if we get more copies if there's more people involved. But I'd love to get this one read, and so that we could have a proper book club meet in June to have a good chat about this book. It's a really emotional book. I loved it. Hope you've all had a lovely holiday, and I can't wait to see you, and let's get reading. Bye!